So welcome everybody to Expats Portugal, our Portugal Calling series. Jerry, Carl and I are really excited to have you all here again with us this evening. My name is Astrid. I'm one of the directors of Expats Portugal. I'm originally from Australia and moved to Portugal in 2012. I spend my time between Sintra and our country home in Castelo de Vide in the Alto Alentejo. A big thank you to all of our premium members here tonight. Your kind donation helps us continue to run this site and to bring you amazing webinars such as what we have on for you this evening. Just some housekeeping. Everybody will be muted during the event so that everybody can hear the discussion clearly. Please send your questions via the chat function, but please ensure you send it to everybody so that everyone can see your questions and avoid any double up. So no personal messages, just to send out to everybody. We will be recording tonight's webinar, which will later go up on the Expats Portugal website and also our YouTube channel. So if you want to remain anonymous and not be seen, now is the time to turn off your camera function. I would also love to know where you are joining us from tonight, so please add your location to the chat box and say hello. Over to you, Jerry, and then Carl to introduce our special guest tonight.
Thanks, Astrid. Good evening and welcome, everyone. My name is Jerry Lawler, and together with Astrid, that we own and ably assisted by Carl, I should say, we own and manage Expats Portugalcom. Expats Portugalcom was originally founded in 2005, mainly as a forum. Lots of questions about what kind of plugs people need to buy and the best paint to buy and so on. Sadly, and built up a very strong membership of over 6,000 members. Astrid and I took over the site in September last year officially, and we launched a new website in February of this year. And since then, we've seen tremendous growth. We have something like 15% growth in 7 months, which equates to 900 members. New members joining us. Most of those members are coming from the UK and the USA, and all have great interest in moving to Portugal. And of course, as Brexit looms, many of our existing members who are already in Portugal are very interested to know what will happen. So it's our great pleasure tonight to introduce Marta and Simona from our friends from the British Embassy. And I'll hand you over to Carl, our excellent host, who will chair tonight's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Astrid. Good evening, everybody. Durban, South Africa, rainy Chelmsford, Al-Wazira, Carveiro, and Kuwait, and Whitby, UK. So thank you for saying who you are and where you are. Lovely to be talking to you tonight, Marta and Simona. Marta Ceia, the Consular Policy Officer at the Embassy, and Simona Demuro of the British Consul at the Embassy there. Good evening to you both. How are you this evening?
Hi there. Hi, everyone. Great to see so many people from so many different parts of the world. Yeah, we're doing well and looking forward to answering some of the questions that are going to come through today. I'll hand over to Marta just for you to say a few words, and then I might just say a little bit more about our consular work, if that's okay, Carl.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Hi, Carl. Hi, everyone. This is great, as Simona said, we're here to answer your questions. I know there is a lot of uncertainty and a lot of questions since we are getting closer to the end of the transition period. And if you haven't heard yet, our ambassador, Chris Sainty, posted a video yesterday on our social media channels talking about that. So if you have a moment, please check it out.
So I know a lot of you often say, oh, consular, well, what do you do? So I thought I'd just very quickly say that we provide assistance to British nationals or UK nationals that come on holiday, or even UK nationals that reside here. It tends to be the slightly darker side of humanity, in that it's the darker side of things, because generally it's when things have gone wrong. So we will provide assistance to people who have either their loved one has died while they've been abroad, or somebody's been arrested, detained, or indeed they've been, unfortunately this can happen, it doesn't happen that often in Portugal, but they can be the victim of a crime. it could be domestic abuse, it could be child abduction. So, so yeah, not the happiest of things that we deal with, but we're here to provide that support, to be able to help people navigate the system and know what it is that they need to do and what they need to do next. And it can be very difficult when you're abroad, especially if you've gone on holiday. You don't know the local laws, you don't know how to, what to expect. So that's really what we do across the world. We also do provide emergency travel documents. So if you lose your passport, which we strongly advise you not to lose your passport, then we do issue emergency travel documents, which will enable you to get home. And then we do a couple of other smaller things. Some are quite happy events. We also, when somebody becomes a British national, they will take a citizenship ceremony, so we do that as well. And then a few notarial documents that, especially if you're importing a car into Portugal, we'll do some of that as well. So that's what we do in a nutshell. So we're not involved in anything political. We are here to help British nationals.
That's brilliant. Thank you for making that distinction. It's an education for me tonight. So that really is the distinction between the British Embassy and the Consulate. The Embassy is representing Her Majesty in the country abroad, and the Consulate is doing those things you spoke about, the human aspect of it, I guess, day to day for British nationals.
Yeah, I mean, we do have other parts of the embassy as well. We have a trade and investment side. Obviously, we have a political side. So there are other things. We also work with other across government. So we do have partners across government, such as HMRC or indeed NCA, so National Crime Agency, which I think has just changed names. So apologies for that. So we do have. Quite a few departments within the embassy, and Consular is one of them, and our focus is we represent the UK, but obviously it's to help people who have come to Portugal or indeed any other country across the world. That's where we will be.
And we are happy to actually meet them, because we are the ones who are closer, sometimes face to face, to the Brits here. So indeed, this is very good work. And
what a year you've had. This is 98 days to go till Brexit, and of course the pandemic. What's the atmosphere like in the embassy and the consulate at the moment with all of that? This is very, it's a historic moment, isn't it?
It is. It's been, I mean, from a consular point of view, I think we really didn't have a lot of time to think or do anything. Well, we didn't have a lot of time to think or breathe almost during the lockdown.
Yes.
We also look after Cape Verde here, so not just Portugal. So of course we were dealing with a lot of people who did find themselves a bit stuck once lockdown had started, couldn't get home, and therefore trying to help people to be able to get back to the UK. So we actually were incredibly busy during the lockdown. It was 4 months, non-stop 4 months. Obviously that has obviously gone now, because everybody who needed to get home has got home. But obviously there's still other issues from the pandemic that we're still dealing with. And one of them is, people's lives have changed quite considerably. So some of our UK nationals may have lost their jobs in the meantime. So there are some welfare issues, and that's again something that we provide assistance on. And then, yes, the transition period, which sort of got a little bit lost, I must say, during the lockdown, but we've now started to focus on that again, given that we've got 100 days until the transition period ends. So yes, a bit hectic, actually.
Yes, but can I just focus on a very good thing? Because according to SAF numbers, our community now is expanding quite a bit, and now we have close to 35,000 Brits registered in Portugal, and I'm sure it's going to be many more in the coming months. So for us, this is really good to know that you're getting our message and you're doing the right thing to register.
Okay, and so that is the key message that you want to put across, is that it's very important to register in this period. And as the Ambassador Crescenti was saying, you can register in the new year, obviously, but it's best to get on with it now.
Yes, that's our main advice for every UK national. If you're here, if you're living here, and if you want to stay, do register with your town hall until the end of the year. This is the best and the easiest course of action for you, because if you are here, register now, you are under the withdrawal agreement, and your rights are going to be protected, which is better than do it afterwards.
But also, just to add to what Marta was saying, is that actually all your rights flow from being a resident. So that's why it's the most important thing, because once you're a resident, then you can access healthcare, you can also do other things, and without that, you can't. And I know that sometimes people think, well, I own a house and I've been coming here for many years, and that's fantastic, that's great. But actually, it is a process you have to go through. Go to the town hall, register. That's really important.
All right, I think we'll cover some of the specifics of doing that.
Sure.
But of course, we have people's questions here. So do please ask those questions in the comments. First question from Malcolm. Thank you, Malcolm. Having taken up residency, we want to take advantage of registering at the local health centre. Does this cause issues with using the National Health Service when we return to the UK? We intend to be in the UK about 4 months of each year. And incidentally, Malcolm does still work and pay national insurance contributions. How do they stand with that?
Well, hi Malcolm, so just to answer your question, it does stem from where you are ordinarily resident. So if you are a resident here in Portugal, you will access your healthcare through Portugal, which means that when you go back to the UK, you can't access it in the same way that you would if you are ordinarily resident in the UK. So there is a distinction there. I think at the moment, Malcolm can use an EHIC card. EHIC is a European health insurance card, but I'll let Marta say a few words about that. So he can use that when he goes back to the UK. So it is about where you are resident. And I know that people say, but I pay national insurance back in the UK, etc. But actually, if your residence is here, your health care is through Portugal.
Okay.
Yeah, so on the EHIC, really quickly, I'm not sure if there are anyone asking this now because I can't see the questions, but I'm sure it will come up. So the European Health Insurance Card, it's a European system among European member states that basically gives you the right, when you visit other member states, to access healthcare, emergency healthcare, as if you were in your own country. So it gives you the same right to access and usually the same payment. So what happens is that now the UK is left with the European Union. EHIC scheme will not be a part of for UK nationals. However, if you're under the withdrawal agreement, and you will continue to be able to use the EHIC system. So in your case, Malcolm, you probably can get the EHIC. When you do go back to UK, you can use your EHIC there, okay? But do go to our Healthcare in Portugal page on gov.uk to check how you can do that.
Oh, that's really helpful. That's great. And so it's all about your principal place of residence. Karen's asking and is it EHIC, EHIC?
EHIC, exactly.
Perfect. Karen is asking, my European medical card has expired. Is there a way to replace it? If I'm not in the UK, I'll be moving to Lisbon in October and wanted to sign up for the Portuguese health system. So how does one go about renewing the EHIC?
Right, so it depends. If you are coming as a resident and if you don't have any connection with the UK in terms of you don't have a state pension or you don't have a state benefit or you're not a student, then the UK will not pay your EHIC anymore. However, as a resident in Portugal, you can ask for a Portuguese issued EHIC. Okay, but there are a lot of details here. So please do go to Healthcare in Portugal at gov.uk, or actually in our Living in Portugal guide, which is the main page where you can get all this information about living in Portugal for you specific as UK nationals. And there is information about EHICs and how to access and actually register for healthcare in Portugal.
Brilliant. Okay, and we'll make sure those links are in the comments tonight and certainly on the YouTube and podcast links as well. So yes, your big priority, get registered, people. And the question, the question, I heard that, when the questions are now coming in as a result of that, where can you register? How do you register? So maybe the time is to go into some specifics on that process, and then we'll go deeper into people's specific questions about that process. So could you take us through that?
Yeah, sure. So you register at your town hall, so the Câmara Municipal, wherever you happen to live. So my mum actually, I've just gone through all of this because my mum has just come over to Portugal as a new resident. So yes, so she got an appointment. Obviously with COVID times at the moment, you need to get in touch with your camera first because a lot of them are operating an appointment system. It's always good to check with your camera what sort of documentation they want from you as well, because it does vary a little bit from one camera to another. In some town halls, they will just ask you to sign a declaration. In others, they will actually ask you to show where you're living, so possibly a rental contract or, or the deeds of your house, etc. So best to call them, get an appointment, and then go down with all of the documents. And it's actually fairly straightforward. Once they've done that, the document is issued. I actually have one here. That's what you get. You get your certificate. There we go. And you pay 30 euros for it, I think, or 15 euros. I can't remember. 15, sorry, beg your pardon. And yes, a bit cheaper for children. And it's also important that you register your children as well. So it's not just adults, you have to register your children as well. So as every member of the family. Sometimes people are not living necessarily in the area, or they're living in a smaller area within the municipality. So that we have what they call juntas de freguesia. And sometimes people go down to the junta de freguesia just to get a certificate, a declaration to say that they live in that particular place. Sometimes people think that's a certificate, but it isn't. It's just part of the paperwork that you then take to the town hall. So relatively straightforward when you first come to Portugal.
Yes, and if you have Facebook access, I think you don't have to have access to Facebook, but if you go to our Facebook, which is Brits in Portugal, there's a video with actually Simona explaining step by step what you need to do to register for residence in Portugal.
Oh, that's superb. Here's an interesting question from Jeff. Hi from a wet Titchfield. If we apply for residency now, but circumstances change, then what happens to our application? Can it be reversed? I've not heard that scenario. So that, they would register and become, they would have their residency document. Can it be revoked or reversed?
You can re-register somewhere else when you go back either to the UK. So what happens here is that you go to the town hall, and usually the process is done in 50-20 minutes. They give you the card, they give you that paper. So you become a resident that day in Portugal. If you move again, you just re-register where you are, okay? So no worry, you don't need to come to Portugal and deregister from, or unregister, or actually tell us that some people come to the consulate thinking that they need to let us know. We don't keep records, so you don't have to let us know.
Oh, okay, excellent. From Bertie, hi Bertie, if I gain residency before the end of the year, when is the soonest I can return to the UK to visit family? 6 months, or I mean, you can go the next day, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I hope that helps, Bertie. A specific here from Colin. Thanks for this question, Colin. We're moving to Portugal next week. Well done. We're renting a house for 6 months before buying. Can I use the rental address to get residency?
Yes, absolutely. You need to have a standard contract. It's something that they can check with the owners of the rental property. But yes, and I can say that because that's precisely what my mom has done. So there we go. Anecdotal evidence.
Congratulations to your mum on that successful residency. Back to Malcolm. Malcolm had a few questions for us. We've recently taken residency in Portugal, which will require us to swap our UK driving licence for a Portuguese one. So this is an issue that comes up, isn't it? How will this affect us when we return to the UK to visit and want to drive a UK registered car?
All right, so as a Portuguese resident, you have a Portuguese driving license, you can go to the UK and drive there without the need for an international permit or any other documentation when you go back again to the UK to visit, okay? So you can use your Portuguese driving license in the UK when you're visiting. And you can actually do it in any other member state, because then you will have a European Union driving license.
Okay, simple as that.
Yes.
I think people are expecting complexity sometimes, and it's lovely when it is as simple as that. You're going to say something, Simona?
Yeah, I was actually. It was just to say that obviously at the moment, this is the way it is up until the 31st of December. From the 1st of January onwards, we don't have a very clear picture, but I think what is important to say is that both the UK and Portugal are very keen to make sure that things remain the same, and therefore working very hard to get an agreement. And this is generally across all of the other European Union countries as well, because I think we all want things to remain the same when it comes to driving licenses. But I just thought I'd just flag that, because that's the way it is up until the end of the transition period. But we'll please keep in touch with our Facebook page and Living in Portugal guide, because as soon as things become clearer, that's where we will put all of the information.
Okay, wonderful. Now, the banks thing, that is the big news of the week. I don't know how much you can say about this, but I'll ask the question anyway. We've heard UK banks are intending to rescind UK bank accounts to expats. We still have income, this is from Malcolm, generated in the UK in the form of rental income on property, a salary from my business, and my wife has a government pension taxable in the UK. We own a property for our sole use when we return and pay bills associated with the upkeep. So it's quite a complex banking situation, obviously, there. And this comes as quite a blow to quite a lot of people who are still paying bills in UK bank accounts. Is the bank situation likely to impact on people in our situation? What do you make of that? What can you say about that at this stage?
All right, well, Malcolm, thank you for that. Like you, there's a lot of people asking or thinking about this, actually. So the first thing you'd like to say is that most UK nationals living in Europe may not be impacted by this. So perhaps you will not experience any change in your bank account at the end of the transition period. So this is just some banks that will have this. This is, we do know there's been a lot going on in the media about this, and some customers may already receive either an email or a letter from their bank saying there will be changes in the service or end of the service after the end of the transition period. So this is until from the 1st of January onwards. And this, just a little explanation, this is related to something we call passporting. Passporting, it's a mechanism within the European Union that allows banks to deliver and sell services on other member states. Since the UK has left the European Union, is no longer inside that passporting scheme. Okay, so it is up to certain banks, up to each bank to find out what's best for them in order to get in a certain scheme or not. That's why we're saying some banks will continue to have services and provide services in member states, in this case Portugal, some will not. Our best advice is for you to either wait for your bank to contact you, or if you have doubts, contact your bank, and they should tell you what they're going to do, okay? Unfortunately, as Simona said in the beginning, we are consular, so we cannot give, we are actually unable to give tax or financial advice to you. That's why the only thing we can say is please ask your bank, and they will let you know what's the best thing for you to do.
Fair enough. That's fair of you. I mean, other webinars that we've hosted, the advice has been to open a Portuguese bank account, and why wouldn't you? So I think that's a very good idea anyway, and talk to your new Portuguese bank about how they can help you, because it's a really important part of joining the culture, I think. So I'll take responsibility for that one. It's not financial. It's not financial advice. It's cultural advice. Go ahead and do it. So we have some real specifics here from George that we'll endeavour to work through, and help us out, George, as well, to make sure we're on the right track with your series of questions here. Can you be refused residency if you do not have a lease agreement? How are we doing with that?
We don't think so, because I think what they want, if you don't have a lease agreement, you need to demonstrate that you're living somewhere.
Yeah. Yes.
So obviously that there'll be an address that you can use, one hopes. But generally what they want to see is that you have the means to support yourself and your family. So that will be part of sometimes the documents that they want to see, or indeed the declaration that you sign is basically saying that you have the means to support yourself and any family members. So we don't know of anybody who's been refused because they didn't have a lease contract. It could be deeds, it could be somewhere where you're staying, it could be a friend's house. There's other ways, but always best to check with the camera in question.
That's great, thank you. These are very specific. And when does the residency time start for the completion of the 6 months per year? So presumably just straight away.
The moment you get your certificate has a date on it. So that is the date when the clock starts ticking.
Okay, fantastic. And you've answered this actually. Must all members of a family apply for separate residency? That is how it is, isn't it? For every individual, whatever their age, they must all be, even the tiny babies. That's from my personal experience. Family reunification states that children have to be enrolled in Portuguese school, last 2 years of high school, and we would like to homeschool due to language. Yes, is this allowed? Do you are you aware of the homeschooling situation? Yes.
Yeah, homeschooling, it's tricky in Portugal. So children should not be homeschooled. Every children should go to a school from 6 years up. So it's the primary school. There are, however, some cases, well, you can.
You can, yes, you can actually. I think there's been a change in homeschooling. So as far as we know, you can homeschool a child, but the child has to be enrolled in a school. It doesn't mean that they will go to that school. It just means that when they need to do the test they will have to do. So I know at different years, there's different tests that they have to do.
Yeah.
So they would have to sit those tests or something equivalent. It's that I think we do have information on this on our Living In guide. So again, Living in Portugal is a great place to go and have a look at that. And that is quite specific and probably best just to check as well with the Ministry of Education here in Portugal.
And check with your local school as well, so where your children would be registered. So check with them.
Yeah, I think we're establishing a general rule here, aren't we, of reaching out. So if it comes to living here, reach out to the local Câmara. If it's health, go to the health centre. If it's education, go to the local school or education department. Would seem sensible, and that relates to this last point from George. As we are still winding up UK affairs, when do you have to transfer to the Portuguese health system? So when is the time to register with the Portuguese health system?
Well, the moment you become a resident. So the moment you've got your certificate, you can then go down to the health centre and register. It's that's a process. So you can register immediately, or you can take a couple of days or weeks or whatever. But what we suggest is that you do you register.
Or if you're a man, you wait until you're ill.
Yeah, possibly best not to do that.
Okay.
Please don't wait until you're ill. Yes.
Yeah, register now. That would be better. As soon as you got your certificate.
Sorry, that wasn't in any way advice. It was an observation. Okay, fantastic. Scrolling through the questions here, we've covered quite a few, which is, if you've had any other thoughts arising as a result of the general atmosphere here of the questions, if there was anything you wanted to add?
Well, I think it's basically just to make sure that our UK nationals here know what they need to do. And the first, as you said, it's register for residence. The second, this is the most important thing. The second is, once you do that, register for healthcare. Healthcare is residency based. If you're a resident here, you have access exactly as a Portuguese citizen has to the National Health Service. So please do that. Also, it's usually automatic. When you do that in your local health center. And the third thing is sort out your driving license. Either you have 3 months now, so you have until the end of the year to either exchange your driving license to a Portuguese one, or to go to IMT, this is the Portuguese DVLA, and register your address. And you do need to do one of these two things, okay? So these are the main 3 things for us.
Yeah. And just to say that, 100 days might seem like a long time, but actually 100 days can go very, very quickly. So again, if you are here, if you live in here, if this is where your life is. So when we talk about residence, it's really, I know the term is ordinarily resident, but it means that this is where your life is. And I think sometimes people think that, oh, but my tax domicile. Well, tax domicile is a completely different thing. So you can have your tax domicile somewhere else, but actually you can be ordinarily resident in a different country. That is possible. So I think sometimes there's a confusion between those two, and not to be distracted by that, but to actually just get registered and to do it before the 31st of December, definitely. You can still do it after the 31st of December, but you will need to demonstrate that you were a resident here, that you had come to live here, that your life is here. And the documents that they will ask you to provide might be slightly more than you would have to now.
Okay, sorry, I lost you there a little bit. I think it might be my connection. I do apologise, but I'm sure everybody else knows that.
Carl, we've lost you.
Yes.
Hold on. No, he's here.
We can't hear.
We can't hear Carl. We can't hear you.
Carl, what have you done? You're not mute. Oh no.
We have lost. Oh no. Oh.
Carl, did you want to leave and come back? We can't hear you, darling.
Can't hear you, Carl.
Can everybody else hear everybody?
Yes,
Yeah.
perfectly. I think
Yes.
from our side is good.
It's good that he's amusing himself.
Carl, I think
No, we're still not hearing you, Carl.
no, and you're not muted. Did you want to leave the meeting and come back? In the meantime, Carl, I think
We can pick up some questions, yes.
in the meantime, we had some pages to share with everybody as well that you sent through to me today. So maybe we should go to some of those pages so that you can explain what information people can get there.
Yes, wonderful. Yes, I think, well, some of them we already mentioned. So the first, I think Astrid is going to share a screen so you can see, but the first one is the Living in Portugal Guide. So the Living in Portugal Guide is on gov.uk, and this is basically the page where you find all the information that for you as a UK national living in Portugal. So you have residency, you have healthcare, you have driving license, you have importing cars, you have some education. Thank you. Yes, we've talked about that here. You have some tax related information that is with links for you. So do go there. There's a very, very important page. This is Living in Portugal on gov.uk. The second one is the Healthcare in Portugal page, also in gov.uk. So gov.uk is basically our platform, the government platform, where you can find all these different pages. And Healthcare in Portugal, thank you, that's the one Astrid is showing. It's specifically for, well, as it says, healthcare in Portugal. So how you register for healthcare, what you need to take with you, what are your rights, how do you get an EHIC. If you're an S1, this means if you have a UK state pension, or if you have a UK state benefit, or if you're a student, how you can get your, actually student, no, sorry, if you have a posted worker, how can you get your S1 form? So all of that is there. So do check that out as well.
And just while you're having a look at, while Astrid is scrolling up and down and having a look at our links, I'd just like to say that if any of you, or indeed anybody that you know, is really struggling to get their residence sorted out, the UK government created a fund, so it's a UK National Support Fund, and IOM, which is the International Organization for Migration, that is based in various countries, won the bid. So they are called IOM, and if you go to IOM UK, you can then actually find the link to IOM here in Portugal. They're a team of 3 or 4 people. We've just done a post on Brits in Portugal. They're based in Faro, but there's also colleagues that work in Lisbon, and they will help you through the process. So they will actually, in a way, almost not physically, obviously, virtually hold your hand as you go through the process. And, you know, they're particularly keen to help people who maybe are finding it quite difficult to get through everything. It's not a complicated process, but it's great that they're there, and that's why we funded that, precisely to provide that kind of help to British nationals.
Yes, they have a dedicated phone line and a dedicated email. So even if you're not in Faro or near it, you can reach out to them. So please do.
Carl?
Oh no.
Not again.
I think you're hosting this now.
Yes.
Just been promoted.
Do you want me to do an Astrid?
Oh, this isn't very fair.
I've switched my
Oh, there you go.
I've changed to a different microphone, so maybe that should be better now. So sorry, everybody. That was awkward. But and I think it's wiped most of the questions that I can see in the chat as well. I can remember a really good one, which is somebody, and forgive me for not remembering your name as well, but you're coming to Portugal to do your residency in December, and they're well aware that that's holiday season. How do you think that's going to affect the processes in December?
Well, as I said, the process is actually quite quick. Once you get to your camera, you know, in 15-20 minutes, you can already have your certificate. But I think, as I said, because of COVID, you probably need to have an appointment. So maybe the best thing is for the gentleman to ring through to the camera, or, you know, find a way of getting in touch with them so that he can get an appointment. But generally the cameras are open during the Christmas period, obviously maybe not on Christmas Day,
Yes,
but actually
definitely.
Boxing Day here is a working day. So,
Yes.
so yeah, slightly different to what we're used to. But yeah, that's what we would advise.
Okay, brilliant. And now's a really good time to ask you a question again, because it will go straight to the top of my chat, which would be great. Have you lost me again?
You're fading.
Oh, really? Oh, dear. I hate to hear that. Can you explain, ask Karen, how the NIF number relates to residency? The famous NIF number in Portugal.
Yeah, your NIF number is your national fiscal ID, if you like. Actually, people can get a NIF without being a resident. So I think that's an important point to make. For example, if you want to buy a property but you're not a resident here, you will be asked for a NIF. So you can get a NIF even without being a resident. But what I know has happened in some town halls or cameras is that when they actually go and get their residence, they are asked for a NIF number. And that can happen, but it's a fairly relatively straightforward process. It's from the finances, so the finance department. But again, because of the pandemic, we know that a lot of services are working in a slightly different way. So I think you probably need to get an appointment just to be able to do NIF. But if you're not in country, somebody else can do it for you. If you're non-resident, you can appoint somebody to do that on your behalf.
Oh, that's really good. And yeah, Gilda is here, who was talking about how she could take people through that last week as well. So yes, we know people who can help you with that. Mark asked the question, I've just bought a property, site with no building as yet in Portugal. It will be late next year before we'll be in a position to move. What should we prepare in advance, especially regarding Brexit? I mean, it's the same thing really, isn't it? They, whether or not their building starts next year and when people are buying, 31st of December is the 31st of December.
Exactly, that's exactly it. Now, I think I understand the question is if they're still building, can they be residents here? So you can, in a way that if you move here and if you're living here, you can show other address where you're living actually, and then register for resident with that address. And afterwards, when you have your new home all ready for you to move in, you can exchange the address in your certificate.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really important point actually, because if you move, it's really important that you make sure that you let all the different departments know that you've moved. So you'll need to go back, you'll need to go to your new camera and just give them a new address and they'll issue you with a new certificate. That the time doesn't change, it will still be your 5 years, it's just that, you know, it'll have your new address. And the same thing with your NIF as well. It's really important that you make sure that they know that you've moved within, say you've moved within Portugal, obviously.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, thank you. I'll shout because I think my volume's gone a little bit low now, but we'll work through this. I have a residency. This is a great question, and another aspect of your work possibly. I have residency. It was very easy. That's really good to know from Sarah. Thank you, Sarah, for saying that. Now I want to start a web-based business. Who can I talk to in the embassy to understand liabilities, presumably of trading in Portugal? And where can I find a Portugal partner collaborator?
Wow, that is a great question. I'm not sure we've got all the answers for that.
Okay.
we do have a trade and investment department here at the embassy. I'm not sure how much they would be able to help. I think there are lots of organisations. So, for example, there's the British Portuguese Chamber of Commerce. So there are other organisations that will probably be able to give Sarah the kind of information that she's looking for. It's not really something that we would do or give info on.
Unfortunately, like I said in the beginning, we cannot provide financial tax advice. In this case, it's very specific advice as well, and liabilities is definitely nothing that we can advise on. So do reach out for example, the Chamber of Commerce is very good, but if you do go to gov.uk, please check the pages for, well, in this case, I'm not sure if it applies to you, but it may apply for other people, that you're a UK national and may have a business in the UK or maybe have a business here that trades to the UK. Please go on gov.uk and find out the pages on trading after the end of the transition period, because there are some actions you have to take now to secure that you can continue to do this.
That's great, thank you. So a question from Steve Lewis. So here's my probably in brackets dumb question. No such thing, absolutely. My wife and I are resident in South Africa. Both of us hold British passports, have just sold our home in South Africa and planning to relocate in Portugal sometime next year. What are the likely requirements for us to gain residency after Brexit? And you know, you've alluded to this, haven't you? It's kind of crystal ball territory, right?
Well, not necessarily, actually. For the Portuguese, they're quite clear that from the 1st of January onwards, UK nationals will be treated in the same way as what we call third country nationals, which is a slightly odd name, but what it means is basically like any American or Canadian, Australian, South African coming to Portugal. So they're non-EU citizens. So actually there's already a lot of information on the CEF side. So CEF is Serviço de Estrangeiros e Fronteiras, because they actually explain what the process is. It's not quite as straightforward as it is at the moment, because the requirements are a little bit stricter, but there's nothing to stop UK nationals coming to Portugal after the 31st of December. It will just that they will be under a different regime. So they will be third country nationals and they won't be protected under the withdrawal agreement. So that is a difference. But you know, even if we cast our minds back to you know, before Portugal joined the EU, you know, people still used to come and take up residence here. So it will happen, you know, even after the 31st of December.
Amazing. Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. And let us know, C. Lewis, if that works for you there. And feel free, everybody, to ask more questions. We go into the last 15 minutes of the webinar. Do cameras accept digital documentation, or do you need actual original documents?
Best to check with the camera, always, because the cameras do differ one from the other. So always best to, any questions like that, it's best to check that with the camera.
Okay, so yeah, that's the general advice, isn't it? Because there are local interpretations. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so just to clarify then, oh sorry, that's Gilda's message to everybody. My husband says, this is Pilar and Les, my husband will be arriving in Portugal end of November. He will try to do all the paperwork for application of residence. Where do I don't know what that says. Where do I stand? Oh, there we go. Where do I stand if I cannot arrive into Portugal until June? So can part of the partnership do the work even if the other part can't come until next year? I think is the question there.
Yes, well, very well put. Yes, you can. So we have family reunification laws, and actually family reunion is protected under the withdrawal agreement. So in this case, if your husband will come first, then even if you arrive after the end of the transition period, so on January, February, etc., when you do come, you will come as a family member of a UK national under the withdrawal agreement, and you also be under the withdrawal agreement. And this is important to know that this is only for those who a family connection existed on the 31st of December 2020. So for this case, I guess you're fine, but if you are not married or you haven't met yet and you marry in February next year, you cannot do this. You can still do family reunification, but the rules are going to be different.
Okay, all right, that's a great interpretation of that. Fantastic. Sarah, a fabulous question. Many Brits are here on boats. What's the situation about UK registered yachts post-Brexit? Do we know?
Well, I think you've probably realised what the answer is from the way we sort of got. That is quite a tricky one, actually, with boats. I'm not sure that we've got an answer on that one at the moment.
Can you please send us, contact us through our contact form, send us your details and your question, and we'll try to find out more and then reply to you. It's better this way.
Okay, brilliant. And also an invitation to come and have drinks on the yacht, obviously. So
we would love that.
Yes. So this is a test, I think, of how much we've retained so far. So once you've been from Richard Baker, so once you've been to the town hall and successfully obtained the residency certificate, what does that actually entitle you to do? How long are you allowed to be in Portugal per year? I mean, basically, once you're a resident here, you can be here all the time, Richard. This is me testing my memory here, and you're marking me out of 10, I think, on this. Thank you, brilliant. And what does it entitle you to do? Well, access to the health system, the ability to swap your driving license, and basically enjoy the benefits of being a Portuguese citizen. Did I get that right?
Portuguese resident.
I do beg your pardon. Oh, nearly. So close, so close.
However, I mean, that is a point actually, because if somebody, we're not here to give advice on nationality or anything like that, but it is a fact that if you have been here more than 5 years as a resident, you can then apply for Portuguese nationality.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, it is the stepping stone, basically, isn't it? And we haven't talked about that yet tonight, have we? You know, obviously the emphasis has been on get registered, but obviously that is a stepping stone to full citizenship after 5 years.
That's right.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility, yes. I
right,
mean,
okay.
it's a very individual thing, so we won't get into that.
Okay, all right.
Okay. But the fact is that as a UK national, you can have more than one nationality, and the same thing is it's the same thing with Portuguese. So Portuguese allow you to be more than one or have more than one nationality. So there isn't that issue, because in some countries that's not possible, but actually between the UK and Portugal it is. So that's entirely up to individuals if that's what they want to do. But if that is what they want to do, they have to have been registered for 5 years. So yeah, absolutely,
Perfect.
stepping stone.
Thank you very much. Another clarification here from Didi, who said when I got cut off that I was already on my way to the wine club. What a scurrilous reminder. But just to re-clarify, if you had a Portuguese issued EHIC that we talked about before, you wouldn't be able to use it in the UK after December 31st, would you? Because the UK will not be in the EU, or did I miss something? So can we have a clarification on it working that way round after the 31st?
Yeah, so you're right. As a Portuguese resident here, you can ask for a European health insurance card issued by Portugal to you. You may not be able to use it in the UK afterward, but as Simona said, it will depend. So as we're still not sure about a lot of these rules after the 1st of January. So what we can say is that if you do this and you go back to visit the UK until 31st of December this year, you can use your EHIC. After the 1st of January, you may not be able to. Okay, but please continue to follow our pages, because we're always updating information about these and other things.
Yeah, but as if you are a resident here in Portugal and you do have a Portuguese issued EHIC, you can of course use that across Europe. So that is still valid across Europe. Obviously for the UK it's slightly different, and I appreciate that most of our viewers tonight are more interested in that bit. But just as an aside, you can use it everywhere else in Europe.
That's tremendous. Great news from Sarah is that we are absolutely invited for drinks on the yacht, which is wonderful. How difficult is it to get permanent residency after 5 years residence? I think you've touched on that. It is a personal matter with the Portuguese government to decide on that, and you can't advise on nationality.
Well, it doesn't, after 5 years residence, actually, once you're a resident, you're a resident. It's just that they have slightly different forms. So they talk about the certificate for 5 years, and then after 5 years, you go to your CEF office and basically you have to get a new document. So at the moment, they're issuing these very nice little cards. They look like credit cards. They almost look like a Portuguese ID card. And that's what you get, but you have to renew that every 10 years. So your right to residence remains the same, just that you have to update the document. So that's residence. Nationality or citizenship is a different thing.
Yeah.
But I guess my point before was that if that is what you want to do, you have to have been a resident for a minimum of 5 years before you can apply for nationality. But after 5 years, you carry on being a resident, you just need a slightly different document. I hope that's clearer.
Yes, and it absolutely is. And I just think there's a lot of information, isn't there? And you know, with top notes of anxiety currently with the deadline and all of that. So thank you so much for clarifying these things. Really appreciate it. I might have missed this when I was cut off, but what was the name of the organisation that can help you with the paperwork and process? Was it IOM?
That's right. Yes. So it is. It's the International Organisation for Migration. So they've got offices in different countries, including the UK. So the best thing is for people, if they want, if they need help, that's what they're there for. So, you know, please get in touch with them. So if you go to IOM UK website, and then you can have a look at UK National Support Fund, and that's how you can get the contact details.
Okay. Thank you for that. Natalie asked, does Portuguese residency help individuals with rights accessibility in the wider EU after Brexit? Which is a great question.
So I think you're talking about mobility, perhaps? I think
yes,
that accessibility is mobility. Okay, yes. So the mobility, which is you can freely travel throughout Europe, comes from your European citizenship, not from your residency. So your residency in Portugal gives you right to be in Portugal, not in the EU. Of course, because there are no borders. Let's say if you get a car in Portugal and drive to Spain, probably you won't get stopped as if you're flying, of course. However, the law is very specific. After the end of the transition period, if you're resident in Portugal and you want to go to Spain or France, you can only stay there visa-free for 90 days in every 180 days. So this is roughly 3 months in every 6 months. This is not consecutive, okay? So this is important for you to know. These are the limitations after the end of the transition period, okay?
But what it does allow you to do is that it allows you to travel between Portugal and the UK freely. So, which I think maybe Natalie might be interested in that. I mean, I'm sure she wants to visit lots of other places as well, but it does allow you to go backwards and forwards between the UK and Portugal without having to be, you know, without those 90-day rule.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. And we are going into the sort of clarification of fine detail. So really appreciate that. And thank you for working so hard for us for this whole hour as well. So from George, in terms of clarification, what happens if you're made to wait for 3 months before the Camera issues the certificate, the residency certificate? Does that period not count towards staying in Portugal? It looks like a situation you might know about. Okay.
Oh yes, it's quite familiar.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
This is a bit of a misinformation sometimes between what the Portuguese law says and how it's interpreted by certain town halls. So the Portuguese legislation said that if you're here, living here for 3 consecutive months, after that period, you're considered a resident and you should register. This doesn't mean that you have to wait 3 months. If you come here and you say, I'm living here, you can just go to your town hall and register for residence, which again, you definitely should do. What happened is that some town halls think that they need to wait 3 months, but we have CEF, and CEF was adamant you don't need to wait for 3 months. So if they do ask you that, you can ask your town hall to contact their CEF contact. They have a special CEF contact, and they will let know what exactly they should do. If it continues, please reach out to us through our contact form.
Oh, that's a great offer. Thank you. All right, so one more clarification before we conclude from Richard. If you get, and Natalie says thank you to the answer to her question. It's obviously helpful there. From Richard, if you get a residency certificate in, say, Óbidos, does that allow you to live anywhere in Portugal, or would you need to reapply in Silvers if you moved there?
So yes, you can live anywhere in Portugal, but as I said earlier, if you then move to Silvers, you then have to go to the camera and let them know what your new address is, because they'll have to print out a new certificate for you with the address that you have. So it is actually, you know, where your actual address is quite important. So you always need to make sure that you keep that up to date. It doesn't mean that you have to start all over again. So, you know, if in his case, if he's already been here for 2 years and then he moves to Óbidos, she's not going to lose those 2 years. His certificate will carry on. It's just it'll have his new address, which is really important.
Brilliant. Okay. Thanks for hosting. This is really useful, says Sinead. And thank you very much from Richard there. I think we've helped a lot of people tonight. And there's probably a lot to digest and watch again on YouTube or in podcast form afterwards. Thank you, Marta, Simona. Thank you so much for being with us tonight from the British Embassy, from the Consulate, and helping us out so admirably. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and we'd also like to just thank you. You've been a fantastic host, even though you did sort of slip away for a little while, but you came back, so that was great.
Sorry, dramatic.
And obviously, Astrid and Jerry, thank you very much, you know, Expats Portugal, for this opportunity. It's been great, and as Marta said, if there are any other questions, you've said, you know, watching the YouTube video, but to contact us.
Exactly. And thank you for everyone who's sending the questions, and welcome. I know there are some of you say they're just moving to Portugal, so you're very welcome here.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. So back to Astrid.
Back to me. Well, thank you. That was amazing. Thank you. And I just wanted to thank Gilda a little bit there as well, because she jumped in and answered a few questions, so she didn't have to, although she's at the top. Very helpful. Thank you, Gilda. And there was somebody else who was sharing some links as well to the IOM, I think it was called. I'm not too sure where that is, but thank you very much for everybody sharing their knowledge. That's what Expats Portugal is all about, is sharing knowledge through